Deep in a rainforest, a chimpanzee is giving birth. She's completely alone. There are no doctors, no nurses, no hospital, just a mother bringing a new life into the world. A few moments later, she picks up her baby and quietly walks away. For our closest living relatives, birth usually looks like this. And that's what makes our own story so strange.
Humans are the closest living relatives of chimpanzees, so at first glance, you'd expect childbirth to look pretty similar for us too. But it doesn't. Even today, with modern hospitals, advanced medicine, and emergency surgery, childbirth can still become a life-threatening emergency. For some mothers, labor becomes the most dangerous day of their lives. So why is something as fundamental as giving birth still so dangerous for humans?
Millions of years ago, our ancestors did something almost no other mammal had done to the same extent. They became habitual upright walkers. Walking on two legs changed everything. Our hands became free to carry tools, food, and eventually our own children. We could travel farther using less energy. And deep inside the skeleton, one structure began to change more than any other: the pelvis.
For decades, scientists believed this was where the story began.
Human birth is dangerous, the theory went, because we walk upright. Bipedalism reshaped the pelvis, and that made the birth canal tighter. This became known as the Obstetrical Dilemma, and for years it was one of the most widely accepted explanations for why human birth is so risky. Honestly, it sounds convincing, but if a narrow pelvis is really the problem, why didn't evolution just make it a little wider?
In science, a good idea has to do more than sound convincing. It has to make a prediction that can be tested. If the obstetrical dilemma was correct, women with wider hips should spend more energy walking and running than women with narrower hips. In 2015, researchers at Harvard, Boston University, and Hunter College put that prediction to the test, measuring the walking and running efficiency of women with different pelvic widths. The result was unexpected. They found no meaningful increase in the energy required to move. Wider hips didn't make locomotion significantly more expensive. That didn't disprove the whole theory, but it did challenge one of its central predictions.
So researchers began asking a different question. Maybe the problem wasn't the size of the birth canal. Maybe it was the shape. It's easy to imagine the birth canal as a straight tunnel, but it isn't. The human birth canal curves and twists. One part is wider, another narrower, more a winding passage than a straight path. That means a baby can't simply move forward during birth. It has to rotate, first one way and then another, lining up with the changing shape of the canal at every stage. That's what makes human childbirth mechanically so complex. Chimpanzees, by comparison, have a far simpler birth canal, so this sequence of rotations is much less demanding for them. The answer seems obvious. Just make the birth canal a little wider. But the human body doesn't work that way. It isn't a set of parts that can each be optimized on their own. It's a connected system. The same pelvis that has to allow childbirth also supports the organs inside your body every time you stand, walk, run, or lift something. If the birth canal became much wider, it could weaken the pelvic floor over a lifetime, raising the risk of conditions like pelvic organ prolapse and urinary incontinence. Changing one part of the system affects another. So maybe width was never the real problem.
Then, researchers noticed something else. Human babies are remarkably underdeveloped at birth compared to other primates. A newborn chimpanzee can cling to its mother's body within a very short time after birth. A human baby can't, and depends almost entirely on other people for months. That observation led to a different idea entirely. What if the real issue wasn't anatomy, but timing? One hypothesis, known as the energetics of gestation and growth hypothesis, suggests pregnancy can't continue indefinitely because the mother's metabolism eventually reaches its limit. Babies are born, in this view, when the mother's energy budget maxes out, not necessarily because the pelvis can't accommodate further growth.
It remains an active, debated area of research, but one thing became increasingly clear. No single explanation told the whole story. By this point, we'd ruled out one simple explanation after another. Width mattered, but wasn't the whole story. Shape mattered, but wasn't enough on its own. Timing might matter too, but couldn't explain everything either. The problem was never that these ideas were wrong. It's that each one explained only part of the picture. We'd been asking why evolution never solved this one problem. But evolution doesn't work that way. Natural selection doesn't maximize comfort or eliminate suffering. It simply favors traits that let enough individuals survive and reproduce. Evolution doesn't need a perfect solution, only one that's good enough. That's why there isn't a single fix that makes human birth completely safe. The risk was never eliminated. It was only reduced. So, if evolution never fully solved the problem, how did humans make childbirth survivable? For a long time, many assumed the answer was simply better biology, but the real answer was something else. Even in ancient hunter-gatherer societies, childbirth was rarely a completely solitary event. Anthropologists have found evidence that women often gave birth with the help of other women, and that assisted birth appears to have been an early and widespread part of human life, unlike almost anything seen in other primates. Thousands of years later, that support changed again. Modern medicine, especially C-sections, transformed childbirth in ways our ancestors could never have imagined. Some researchers have even suggested this may be reshaping evolution itself. Because medicine now allows many difficult births to succeed, people with body types that might not have survived childbirth in the past can now survive. And studies modeling this effect predict it is gradually increasing rates of feto-pelvic disproportion across generations. Exactly how large this evolutionary effect is remains under study, but it raises a remarkable possibility. For the first time in our history, humans are no longer shaped only by natural selection. We are also shaping the conditions under which natural selection operates, first through cooperation, now through medicine. We return to that clearing in the jungle, the same chimpanzee, alone, holding her newborn. At first, it seemed like the difference was just anatomy, but that was never the whole story. Evolution doesn't build perfect designs. It builds solutions that work well enough to keep genes moving into the next generation, even when those solutions come with serious costs. Human childbirth is dangerous not because evolution failed, but because evolution never had to eliminate every risk, only to ensure that enough mothers and enough babies survived to reproduce. And where biology alone wasn't enough, humans did something extraordinary. We helped each other. First, with experienced hands beside a mother in labor. Today, with medicine, surgery, and modern hospitals. Our closest relatives can usually give birth alone. We usually cannot. And maybe that's the biggest difference between them and us. The story of human birth isn't just the story of evolution.